actually a lot of things have changed back end. So if you look at the features now, there's actually more features. If you've been following then all the demos that I've had, you'll notice a few more features that were added. One of them was the AI chat. So what I did is I abstracted all the AI interface, the chat interface into its own feature so that if you want to utilize the AI module without the chat, then you're able to with no issue. The minute you enable, well, here you'll notice there's nothing here, but when you enable the chat, uh, you'll see a lot more options. And the reason why these are options here is because these are chat profiles that I've enabled and previously created. So if you go click on the profiles, you'll see that there's 4 chat profiles that I have listed, which they're all here because I have them added to the menu. So that way I can interact. Another thing that was done was adding also an API. So if you want to interact with an API, chat API, you're able to enable that feature and you'll be able to call the services using web APIs. Another thing that was added, which was new, which is AI connection management. So you can actually enable this feature, and this will allow you to define connections using a UI. You can click on add new connection, and then you can enable whichever one you want. You have OpenAI, Azure OpenAI. Right now, I think there's also inference. I'm not sure. I think there's also one more, which is inference. Maybe the feature is disabled. So you can go in here, you can click on an AI, and then you can provide the endpoint to any provider, and then the key, and then you'll be able to connect to it. So any providers, or a lot of providers that adhere to the OpenAI uh, uh, requirement. And so you can just plug in like DeepSeek. You can just put in the DeepSeek connection here, and it will allow you to connect to it. So here I created an OpenAI connection called DeepSeek, and this one it's connected to the API DeepSeek, and I previously put in my API key, and I'm able to connect to it. Another thing that was done. What else was done here? Oh, there's another thing that was done. It's not very useful just yet, but I'll share it. Oh, this is the inference, the Azure AI inference chat. I'll enable it as well. So another thing was done that there's not a very good example for it, but I think it will definitely be useful down the line, which is called right here, AI tool management. So if you enable this feature, now you'll see tools in here. And what tools in OpenAI, it's a way to allow you to call functionality. Like for example, if you're trying to get the current weather, that's the most common example. You'll be able to create a function, and this function will call an API that will provide the weather. And it will give it to the OpenAI model, and the AI model will use that information to generate a response. But I just well, it's a missing piece for us, or for me here, is that we want to be able to create instances. So for example, if you want to create a weather function, you might want multiple weather services. You might want a service that calls one provider and another one that calls another provider. Like for example, maybe you have a US service and maybe you have a Canadian service, right? You might want to be able to create that. So what I did here is that you're able to create an instance of a tool. The example that I followed is that how can I have one profile invokes another profile? So let's say I have a profile that generates images. So I can go in here and create a profile that will allow me to create images. I don't have that yet, but assume that we'll have it. Then how can I how can I just go to like my local chat here and say, hey, generate an image for me? Well, this profile doesn't really know how to generate an image. So instead, what it does, it will invoke another profile saying, hey, can you handle creating images for me? And it will provide you the image and it will respond to it. So from the user perspective, it will be a seamless integration. And for the user, it will be all UI. So I can click in here and say, add an instance, and there's a profile invoker source that I can add. And then in here, I can select whichever profile that I want to create. And then let's say invoke DeepSeek. And I think this is also required. We're not going to use it. But so what this does now, if you go to another profile like local chat here, you're able to see that instance right here. And you can say, I want to select this instance to make it available for this profile. And so this is the idea behind the tool instances. Again, it's not very useful right now, but it's very useful if you're trying to call another API to generate other stuff. Like in this case, will be great for creating images. What else? What else was done? Oh, another thing that was done is the UI here. So this is an instance that will connect to my local Olama service. I can say what is AI, and you'll see that you see here this changed, and now you'll see a streaming effect. Before we didn't have that streaming effect. It is slow because I think it's the first request I make on my Olama, and that usually takes a minute. So let's just give it a few seconds. So you'll see here, if I hit pause, I'll pause the request and I'll cancel it. But I'm just going to let it so it can warm up. On the right side here, you'll see the most recent interaction. This didn't change. But kind of neat to be able to stream the minute that the OpenAI model generate, or the AI model generate content, you'll see it right on your screen. Meanwhile, you'll get this bobblehead here. Should be coming up. And this is just because it's an Olama, probably warming up locally, trying to get me to respond. That should be done. I would cancel it, but if I cancel it and I try to make another request, it will take us long. But then if I follow up, it would be, oh, there you go. So you see now the responses come in, and I can, pause it if I want to, and I can just let it be. So we'll continue to go all the way through. And this is formatted. You notice that there's formatting here. What is OpenAI AI? And so you'll see here, I'm just going to stop it, and it stops. What is the seek? And so you'll see how it's functioning as it should, and you can just pause it if you don't care for that response. What else? I think this covers. Code-wise, I've refactored a lot of things to make it more reusable for me, because I've noticed like this UI, I'm using it almost in every single screen. So I made an abstraction for me so I don't have to create, similar objects all over the place. So I can just easily create those interfaces. And I think this is all of it. Let me just double check here. Yeah. Oh, and then another thing it's kind of neat to see. I've shared a screenshot before, but if you go in here, this Orchard Core Docs, it actually searching and my knowledge base. So I've created articles here, and those articles are locally hosted. I just copied and pasted a bunch of documents from Orchard Core. You see them, and I'm indexing those using Azure Index. So I have an Azure Index here that I created. And then what I can do in here is I can click here, and I can say how to configure for example. And you'll see now it's coming up, and it's even referencing. You notice here it's giving me references. So if I click on my reference, you'll see this is on my website, my local instance. What about SMS? I don't know. But there's documents, but there you go.
Can you ask it to generate a? Can you ask it to generate a liquid template?
Well, you can ask that to public. Yeah, but not this one.
Not with the content you indexed, but you could.
You could, yeah. So you can say, well, this one right here doesn't really have all the Orchard documents.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to replicate that. This is just me trying to make sure I'm able to communicate with my index. So here I can say, what is AI? And it might not know what to answer because this is only my data. Oh, giving me something because Azure Search, is okay. I might not know that. Well, it shouldn't know that. I don't think. Well, I guess it did. But if you go to like Azure Chat, which is just a standard, and you can say generate liquid template.
In this case, it will use their model that are defined.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Yes, this is using the public liquid, and it will know, and you should be able to generate. Whereas this one is strictly for my document. So it's searching against my own data, which is really good for like an enterprise because enterprises, they don't really trust AI to expose it to their employees. But what this allows them is that they can just put all their data and then they can utilize this interface to connect to their data only, and they'll be able to respond strictly against their data. It's really, really useful. And then here it's a DeepSeek instance and so on. So I think this is, I covered everything.